The first few days of free agency have been very interesting to say the least. Darius Slay and Javon Hargrave are the team's new star signings, but where do the Eagles go from here and what happens next? With the second wave of signings now imminent, here's a look at where the Eagles may be focusing their attention over the coming weeks. Before we get started though guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. The support you're giving this channel recently has been absolutely amazing, and if you want to keep up to date with the latest Philadelphia Eagles news, film breakdowns and so much more, then hit that big red subscribe button. We're so close to 16,000 in our family now, and we would love to make you a part of it. And as always, don't forget you can get your daily dosage of Philadelphia sports coverage from myself and all of our writers at phillysportsnetwork.com. Oh, and one quick side note, happy Slay Day one and all. To celebrate the arrival of Darius Slay, we are giving you 20% off of our entire merch store. So all you've got to do when you get to checkout is use the code SLAYDAY, all in capitals, all one word, for 20% off. Because we love you and we wanted to say thank you for the support. We're going to start with the big one. If you haven't been on social media today, you'd be forgiven for missing a certain Jaguars player giving subtle hints that he's wanting to join the Eagles. And the man in question is Yannick Ngakoue. Now, first things first, I know a lot of people struggle with the name pronunciation. Apparently it is Yannick Ngakoue, which ruins my nickname of Yannick the Panic, but that's a very different debate for a very different day. Where were we? Despite being young, he already has the second highest amount of sacks in franchise history with 37.5, and he's coming off a year where he recorded 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 13 tackles for loss, and 15 quarterback hits. Now, Jacksonville placed a franchise tag on the 24-year-old defensive end, who recently tweeted that he has no interest in signing a long-term deal with the Jags. While that may be the case, the Eagles would have to trade for his services and would likely have to have a long-term deal in place in order to do so. They'd have until July to work this out, which is just as well because these deals can probably take some time. It's likely that Ngakoue would have to agree to a new deal before being traded, and if I'm honest, it wouldn't surprise me if the Jags have just gone up to Yannick and said, hey, do you know what? Go and find yourself a suitor, and if you can find a contract, then we'll talk. But we franchise tagged you. We want you to play in 2020, so we're not going to go and try and trade you. If you want to go and source your own contract, by all means go and do it. And that would explain why there's such a social media push from the player himself, trying to force his way almost into that situation. But this does remind me of the Frank Clark situation last year. The Niners had to give up a first rounder, a third rounder, and a future second rounder just to get their man away from Seattle. And I don't think the Eagles would be willing to part ways with so much capital. But what about a player? I think it's personally highly likely that the team could be looking to move on from Derek Barnett. He too is a young pass rusher, but in comparison to Ngakoue, the production is night and day. He's battled injury while flashing some really elite traits, but has struggled to find some consistency. Including Barnett in place of a high pick would give the Jags a similarly young player to mould, who's in year 4 of his contract with a 5th year option up for grabs, and a player who has amassed 6.5 sacks of his own last year. There's very legitimate interest from the Eagles here, and it's clearly mutual. If Ngakoue has been given the go-ahead to source his own trade, so to speak, then that would explain all of the social media posts, and I think there could well be an early stage of a move in the works. I don't think it's going to happen instantly. It may be a slightly longer process move, but I do think there's some legitimacy to a mutual interest here. Imagining a defensive line where Brandon Graham has Ngakoue alongside him, and then having Fletcher Cox and of course Javon Hargrave in the middle with Malik Jackson still on the roster is absolutely terrifying. I'd love to see it happen. Is it likely? I'm not sure, but we could be in the early days of something very special along that defensive line. Now, another player to keep an eye on for the Eagles is versatile defensive back Will Parks. The former Bronco is currently a free agent with a red-hot market on his tail. He's a former 6th round pick who had 35 tackles, 1 sack, 2 passes defensed, and an interception last year in 14 games for the Broncos as a jack-of-all-trades defensive back. Now, that in itself is something that would massively appeal to Jim Schwartz, a team that has just lost its heart and soul in defense in the way of Malcolm Jenkins. It's not yet clear what kind of valuation is on the shoulders of Parks, but he's young, versatile, can play inside the box. He'll want a starting role, which means it could push the nose of recently signed Jalen Mills back out of joint if he does land in Philly. It's up in the air, and it's likely going to be a move that would take some time to solidify. Parks has a strong market with several teams from both the NFC and the AFC after his services, and he'd be doing himself an injustice by leaping at the first offer sheet handed to him. Give this one time, but in the same breath, don't sleep on it. Now, what about more cornerback help? Would the Eagles be interested in bringing in yet another free agent? And I think there may have been some interest, but with Logan Ryan wanting around $10 million, it's not looking good for the rest of the market, given that the Eagles have just made Darius Slay the highest paid corner in the league. It is of course worth considering that the team has a flurry of young corners at their disposal. Avonte Maddox, Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas and Captain Cravon may all filter into their long-term plans, but the main question at this point is where. Names like Prince Amukamara would be a really appealing option as a CB2, but it does then leave an absolute free-for-all at the nickel spot, barring any trades. Again, probably part of a bigger plan. What about linebacker? I mean, Clay Matthews has just been released, so there's that, but the free agent linebacker market is stagnant. I think the Eagles have just let this one pass them by. All the top names were snapped up almost instantly, and it didn't help that the Eagles lost both Bradham and Grugier Hill. There's a clear need for depth, but don't forget about stand-up defensive end Genard Avery, who was traded at the deadline last season. Avery made an instant impact with a sack on his debut, but was rarely used in the games that followed. The Eagles may want to try and find him a solid role as an outside linebacker, replacing Camus Grugier Hill, and if they trust in Nate Gary, it perhaps opens the door for drafting someone like Patrick Queen as a 3-down linebacker in the middle of that trio. And finally, what about a wide receiver? Well, that market is pretty dead as well. I mean, Robbie Anderson's still sitting pretty in a market that just really hasn't moved much. The Eagles addressed the trenches first as per usual, and the addition of Darius Slay leaves only 2 prominent needs on the roster and 8 draft picks. Realistically, Greg Ward Jr. has earned the right to be in the slot conversation, and although the Eagles could double dip in the draft or pay Anderson or Perriman handsomely, there's a much stronger chance of a round 1 wide receiver slide than we think, leaving Howie to lick his lips at pick 21 and the possibility of someone like Henry Ruggs becoming available. But that's it for today's little roundup, guys. I know it has been absolute chaos over the last few days, so thank you for sticking with us. Again, if you could hit that subscribe button, that would be absolutely fantastic. From myself, Liam Jenkins, you can follow me on Twitter at LiamJenkinsPSN. I'll see you soon.